The leader of the Liberal Democrats, Ed Davey, could hardly have asked for a better election last year. He took a huge risk on his election strategy, with him using essentially any means necessary to garner attention. This included all matter of gimmicks, from bungee jumping in Eastbourne to going down a water slide in Somerset. But what he paid for in dignity, he had more than paid back in political power in Westminster, with his party being rewarded a very respectable 72 seats, the highest in their history. Since the election, though, much of the media discourse has been focused on the other two parties. The Conservatives have failed to find their footing, and questions are regularly asked about Badenoch's suitability as leader, while Labour are really struggling to get a grasp of the economy and are facing sizable criticism at home for their perceived inability to turn things around. While Reform are grabbing headlines for their success at maintaining strong polling, and on occasion, they're very public spats. It's worth, though, having a look at the Liberal Democrats as well. After all, they're the third largest party in Parliament, and in the last week or so, they've actually seen something of an uptick in the polls. So in this video, we're going to take a look at exactly why that is. If you want more UK political drama from us, then check out our podcast Starmageddon, where we track the successes and failures of this new Labour government. Find it over on the TLDR Podcast YouTube channel or in your favourite podcast app. Now, as we see it, there are three reasons why the Lib Dems are polling better at the moment. The collapse of the polling for other major parties, their support for popular policies, and their ability to capture the media. Let's take a look at each of these in turn. Now, as we mentioned in the intro, the main political parties in the UK are really struggling in the polls at the moment. Ever since the election last year, Labour's polling has been steadily dropping, and it's not particularly hard to see why. They had a particularly bad political and economic inheritance, and many are frustrated with some of the decisions they've made to try and rectify it. And this is backed up when we take a look at the polling. A majority of respondents have said that Starmer is doing a bad job as Prime Minister, as well as claiming that they have no idea what he stands for and thinking that the government feels just like more of the same when compared to the previous Conservative government. Now, usually the main opposition party would benefit from this, but as we mentioned earlier, Badenoch is nowhere to be seen. She appears to lack the ability to move her party forward, perhaps out of fear that in announcing policies she'd begin to alienate certain factions within her party, and in doing so restart the factionalism that plagued the party under Sunak. It's only really Reform UK that's seen a particular improvement since the election last year. That's because they've been able to capitalise on Labour and the Tories' misery, and in a couple of polls they've not only outperformed the Conservatives, but also outperformed Labour too. The thing is though, while Reform are sweeping up disaffected Tories, in the most recent YouGov poll, 18% of those who voted Tory in the last election said that they'd vote for Reform now, they're not sweeping up that many 2024 Labour voters. And this is where the Lib Dems come in. Because as they're more ideologically aligned with Labour, they've been able to capture disaffected Labour voters. Indeed, this seems to be what's happening, with around 14% of those who voted Labour in 2024 now saying that they'd vote Lib Dem. So clearly the collapse of Labour is helping them. And with this in mind, let's move on to the second reason why they're polling so well at the moment. Their championing of popular policies. The thing with the Liberal Democrats is that because they know that barring some massive electoral upset, they're not going to be forming a majority government, they don't really need to worry about whether their policies will actually work. For instance, whenever the topic of bank holidays comes up, the Lib Dems are usually the first to argue that England should have another one. Most recently, they've argued that they think there should be an additional bank holiday in May this year to mark the 80th anniversary of VE Day. And this is something supported by 78% of respondents, according to YouGov. Last year, they made the same argument when the England squad were in the final of the Euros, claiming that there should be an extra bank holiday if we took home the trophy. And they're partly able to do this because, unlike Labour or the Tories, they just don't have to worry about how much this would cost or the impact on productivity. Similarly, the UK's relationship with the US is a particularly hot topic at the moment. As the global hegemon, many in both the Labour and Conservative Party argue that the government should remain close to the Trump administration, claiming that this would be the best thing to do for the British economy in the long run, and that it would push Trump into giving the UK some sort of special treatment. The issue here is that in paying lip service to Trump, the major parties alienate themselves from the public. A whopping 63% think that Trump has been a terrible president, and more relatedly, 43% of the public think that Starmer should have a frank and honest approach to the relationship with the United States, in which he makes criticisms when there are disagreements. This is compared to only 37% who think that Starmer should have a polite and positive approach. But again, the Lib Dems don't have to worry about this. They can be as frank as they want, and they regularly are. Ed Davey has pulled no punches in his condemnation of the president, stating in response to his tariffs, "We need an economic coalition of the willing against Donald Trump," and described Trump as a bully. For many Brits, he's just saying what they're thinking, but that's a little bit harder when you're actually in power. So moving on to the last reason they're polling so well. They can capture the media's attention. And this is something that small parties have to be good at if they're going to succeed. For instance, Farage is famously exceptional at this, largely thanks to his big personality and use of social media. Other parties though, such as the Greens and even the Tories, are frankly terrible at this. The Lib Dems might be lacking in some areas, but at least they're willing to try things. Davey has continued his strategy of using stunts to try and get attention, and while his dignity might be suffering, he's at least being spoken about. This helps them get Lib Dem policy across, and ultimately helps them build up in the polls. He's also willing to jump on TikTok trends. Think back to when he was challenging Starmer to a 1v1 on FIFA. While this may turn some people off backing the Lib Dems, they're hoping that on the whole it will attract more people to them, and at least so far, this does seem to be working. All in all then, it seems that the Lib Dems are just fighting hard to stay relevant, and they're relatively well positioned as the third party to benefit from Labour's downturn. And if they can keep this up, they're probably going to do very well at the next election too. Regardless, in 2025, one thing is certain. We can expect the news cycle to continue being dominated by these same major figures. But who's the most influential? Well, in the most recent edition of our magazine, Too Long, we find out. That's because this 72-page issue runs down our official ranking of the world's most influential people, a vote that saw the TLDR team and more than 15,000 of you casting ballots. In the magazine, you'll learn the entire ranking. Plus, we've written articles about all of the top 25, discussing how they wield their influence and how they interact with and shape our world, including Modi's struggles in South India, how Elon took over, Giorgia Meloni's battles with the Italian judiciary, and Trump's monumental comeback story. Also, if you want to dive even deeper, the premium edition of the magazine also gets you access to bonus videos. That includes the team debating their rankings of the top 25, with it getting pretty heated at times.
We could potentially have a monumental jump on our hands.
Yeah.
Hands up for leapfrogging into sixth.
The most powerful European country, the second biggest economy, the nuclear power that is... The nuclear power!
Yeah.
We also recorded the team reacting to the audience's ranking, so you can find out what they really think about your votes. It's not just about the most influential people though. Too Long also contains articles about the current state of the UK, the new right in Europe, and if peace can really hold in Gaza, along with a whole variety of other stories. Too Long truly is some of our very best journalism, with the audience consistently saying that previous issue vastly outstripped their expectations. So if you want a copy too, head over to toolong.news to pick one up. And if you never want to miss an issue, you can subscribe, which gets you a 20% discount on every issue as long as you stay a subscriber. Plus, just this week, if you use code INFLUENCE, you'll get an additional £3 off any subscription. Too Long helps to fund our journalism year-round and allows us to keep our YouTube videos free. So we really do appreciate your support.